What is up, everyone? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. Welcome back to the show. Yesterday was a lot of big games. Sorry, I'm finishing my protein bar in between town hall I did with my union just a little bit ago, and jumping into this. Got a full schedule. I had a meeting yesterday that was like 6 hours long before I went to the San Diego State UCLA game, which I will talk about more, but I just want to say at first, what a beautiful stadium. If you ever get a chance to go to a game there, you should. It's arguably one of the nicest stadiums I've ever been to, and probably the nicest college football stadium you'll ever go to. Very similar to the stadium in San Diego, Petco Park, the baseball stadium for the Padres. So if you ever get a chance, you should go because it's a phenomenal stadium. A lot of great vendors, just a great layout. The way there's a lot of great sight lines. It's really not a bad seat in the house. I had talked to someone there that it might be potential if they build up with the stadium, that they build more seats, that they could potentially get it up to like 50,000 seats, which would be remarkable, which is a nice size stadium. And then you never know, maybe get something else big in there besides just the San Diego State Aztecs football team. And I believe they have the women's soccer league team there and potentially an MLS team too. But regardless, let's get into week 2. It was a very great day of action. I tried to review it all. I couldn't get to everything because of, like I said, I had all these meetings, so I didn't get a chance to get to every single game that we put in our highlight for this week. So the first game I wanted to talk about is the Illinois-Kansas game. Kansas had control of this game pretty much throughout the whole thing. Daniels, the quarterback for Kansas, looked awesome, right where he was at last year. They had a back-breaking touchdown at the end of the half that pretty much plus a field goal to start at the third quarter. So that double dipping, that getting a score before the end of the half and then scoring right at the beginning of the half, getting the ball back is a huge backbreaker as far as the rest of the game. Kansas was in control of that game for the most part, and they ended up winning 34-22 or 23. Some other games that we highlighted, I really was excited about this one, the Baylor-Utah, because I wanted to see what Utah looked like after that win against Florida in the first week. Utah wins in a close one, really close game at the end. Utah wins 20-13. They had to score at the end of the game really to take that one over, but remarkable win considering they're still without Cam Rising, and they Johnson, the quarterback, technically the fourth string quarterback, came in for Barnes, the third string quarterback, and did quite well. They forced some key turnovers, and especially at the end of the game. So they get the win there, 20-13. Colorado, Nebraska, what can I say? Turnovers really killed Nebraska early, really prevented them from getting any momentum there going. They were moving the ball, but not able to punch those in because of the turnovers. Colorado was in control, even though despite that. And I don't think Nebraska is very good, but this now lends itself to Colorado has got a lot of momentum coming into next week going against Colorado State. Their schedule gets a lot harder after that, but Colorado won that game 36-14. So, Shedeur Sanders looked really good, had a lot of yardage. Again, I don't think Nebraska is very good, so it's really a struggle there to see how good they're going to be going up against the better Pac-12 teams, because now the Pac-12, I believe, as of today, has 8 ranked teams, which is remarkable considering that Pac-12 this is the last year, this is the last dance. So okay, so going into the next game, which is I had the Wake Forest Vanderbilt game. Not that much of an interesting game. Vanderbilt was all right in it, but I would say that Wake Forest looks steady. They definitely have the potential to knock off Florida State, which I think is in the future for them. The game is in Wake Forest for that Florida State game, so potential there. Moving forward, Iowa State, Iowa. This is one of those games, old school, low scoring. Defense makes a lot of plays. There was a pick six that was the difference in the game. I don't think much of Iowa. I never really have because their offense is so putrid, especially the last couple of years. But, the defense is strong and they can keep them in games. So they could go, I don't know, I guess 8-4, 9-3. One of the games of the day I thought was the Miami-Texas A&M game. What a game. I mean, just remarkable game, back and forth. Texas A&M had a lead in the first quarter. They were up 10-0, and then Miami just put it to them. Tyler Van Dyke had a huge day, put up a lot of points. They win 48-33. The game was a little bit closer than the final score probably shows, but definitely a really good game. Miami, I thought they were left for dead after last year and that Mario Cristobal would be in trouble. He had a really good recruiting class to finalize last year. But then coming into this year, recruiting was kind of lacking. It still is kind of subpar to what it was last year because last year was a top 5 class, depending on the recruiting service ranking. But this year, they got an easy game to start off with, and then it's like this big game like they had last year with Texas A&M. So it's the 1-1 here, one home and one away, and Miami looked good, and it sets up for the rest of the year, and it may help him with recruiting. And Mario, you never know. I mean, this could be at least an 8-4, 9-3 team. They play Florida State. They play some other good teams like Clemson. So there's going to be a challenge on their schedule. The goal for Florida State and Miami is both getting to the ACC championship game, which is attainable for both of them. I like Florida State's chances better because they have an easier schedule, because I think Miami has to play North Carolina as well, which is a tougher task considering Florida State's schedule. Okay, so moving on, Tulane, Ole Miss. Interesting game because, these two don't play each other a lot, even though they're right next to each other. Ole Miss ends up winning 37-20, but it was a lot closer than that score shows. Pratt didn't play for Tulane, which is a shame because if he had played, the game might have been a lot closer, even though it was close anyways. But Tulane was up regardless of him being there, 17-7, and Judkins for Ole Miss, man, the guy is a stud, and will definitely be playing on Sundays. The fourth down call by Kiffin to go for it with 4 minutes to go, huge, because it was at that point the game was still close. If they don't get it, Tulane's got all the momentum, and then you can take the chance to get the win outright there if they get the ball back. But not only do they convert the first down, but then they get the touchdown right, subsequent with the conversion. And so that was pretty much it. They had a late field goal, 56-yarder, which is a huge field goal for a college kicker, goes in. And then there was a fat guy TD at the end to widen the score. So good victory by Ole Miss. Again, being an SEC West team, your schedule is very tough regardless of your non-con, and their non-conference schedule here with Tulane is quite a remarkable game considering how well Tulane has played the last couple of years, and specifically last year. Moving on to NC State, Notre Dame. I've been talking about Notre Dame all year, and Notre Dame is definitely a team to watch. Potential playoff team. Sam Hartman, potential Heisman candidate, maybe even potential winner. So he is the truth, man. The kid is a stud. He's just been a difference maker for Notre Dame. He takes Notre Dame from a top 10 team to like top 4, maybe even potential national championship caliber team. So that is the difference between that roster last couple of years until now. They have not had the level of quarterback play Notre Dame has since, I don't know, ever in my lifetime. This is top tier stuff right here. And I love Sam Hartman. I think he's a stud, and I think he's going to be great for them. Estime for their running back, for their running game. But man, he's a stud. Huge guy, like very large guys, like 240, 235, something like that. Runs the rock well, just a force of nature. They also had a bunch of interceptions, pretty much changed the game. They ended up winning the game, I believe, 45-24. So solid victory for Notre Dame. You would like to see a better performance from the defense, but Brendan Armstrong for NC State is a solid quarterback and led a good attack there and was, able to move the ball somewhat regardless of the turnover. So moving on to, I didn't see the UTSA, Texas State, or Washington Tulsa stuff, so I'm not going to be able to talk about that. UNC App State, back and forth game, much like last year. Last year was a very close game, even to the very end. This year, same. They went into overtime. Drake May is able to get the score at the end in the double overtime, and then they force the stop, and they get the win. And so North Carolina continues to win. That's another team in the ACC. Look out for them. They're a potential ACC championship level team. And like I said, Drake May is a stud. He hasn't put up crazy big numbers yet, but I anticipate that with some of the lower level games he'll play, he'll get up some huge numbers there. Oklahoma SMU didn't watch, or Pitt Cincinnati didn't pay attention to. I apologize. I just didn't have enough time this week. Alabama Texas, I did watch the highlights of. Man, what a amazing game. And I was paying attention to that on my phone the whole time too, back and forth. I will say Jalen Milroe, I'm not the biggest fan of. Yes, he's an extremely talented athlete, and he is extremely athletic and can run the ball tremendously. I just think his inaccuracy is going to be the trouble here for Alabama going forward. They struggled in this game because of it. He was barely over 50% passing, had 2 interceptions, but Texas gets the win. Quinn Ewers looked great. That's a potential Heisman candidate right there. Going forward, Texas has a huge leg up for the rest of the season. This was a huge stepping stone for Texas. Last year, they struggled in the game to put up points, largely because Quinn Ewers was out and they had their backup in. This year, he was in the whole game, was throwing dimes just all over the place. Just tremendous effort from him and to give them the win. He put up let's see, I'm trying to find the stats here. He put up 349 yards with 3 TDs, 24 of 38. Just a tremendous game in a big time setting in Alabama, or in Bryce Denny. I can't remember the name of it. In Tuscaloosa. There you go. So, great game from them. We'll see how they do the rest of the year. But look out for them for the Big 12 championship potential. Get into the championship game there. As far as other games, Texas Tech, Oregon, interesting game, back and forth. Oregon played well. Bo Nix did remarkably well in this game. They scored. They hit that field goal at the end. Texas Tech had an opportunity to try to score, but they couldn't. And Oregon wins, in a very close game. And, Oregon's a sneaky good team that, is not getting a lot of pub because they're the 13th ranked team right now. But, a 38-30 victory over solid Texas Tech team on the road is a very good victory. Boise State, UCF, I just saw the ending. I didn't get the whole highlight package. Very low-scoring game, but UCF wins. And UCF wins, I believe, by 2 points because they were down by 1. And John Rice Plumlee took a nasty hit at the end of the game. I feel bad for him because it looked really bad. I hopefully he'll be all right. But Boise State, had their chance. They scored a touchdown late, but UCF comes back, marches down the field, and hits that field goal. So UCF continues their winning ways, and they're 2-0 in the year. Actually, yeah, 2-0. And then USF FAMU, I watched the whole entire replay on YouTube. You know, that quarterback for FAMU, Massa, is very good. So do not discredit that FAMU team, because they've got a lot of good moving parts on their offense, and they're very efficient. Massa can put the ball in perfect places for his receivers. They were able to move the ball. They turned it over a bunch, so that was a big trouble there. So they weren't able to actually capitalize on some of those offensive drives. There was a lot of penalties both sides. I think at one point in the game for USF, I think it was near the end of the third quarter, they had like 13 penalties, which is ridiculous. That's a ton of penalties. It is a new regime, so there should be potential of that being a problem. Hopefully he can fix that out. But Alex Golish gets the win in his first ever home game at USF. The defense for USF was stronger here than it was, I would say, a decent effort, considering that the offense that they were playing up against, yes, FAMU is an FCS team, but they still had a decent enough offense to move the ball. They should have probably done better on offense, USF, but they struggled to take advantage of certain things. They were not accurate. Byron Brown was not totally accurate in his passing attack. But regardless, they get the win. It's the first win in almost a year. Now they're on to Bama next week, so we'll see how they do. Ian's notes from the game are: play calling was very pedestrian, but the talent of Brown in the offense was able to win the game. Yes, which much like I thought. It was more USF had better talent than maybe played a better game. And that could be true, and as it should not have been within one score for a majority of the game, which it was. It was within a score of the game, majority of the game, but they ended up pulling away late. I don't know. It's tough. You're playing these FCS teams. You want to be able to dominate them and put them out of their misery. But then again, FAMU is one of the better FCS teams, so they're likely more like a lower tier FBS team. So it's not that terrible to have played the way they did. Getting the win, honestly, is huge, considering the news of Friday where the Board of Trustees voted to approve the funding for the stadium. So that's huge. There is in the works of getting the new stadium on campus. And, that'll be a huge difference maker for the program going forward. So moving on to Florida. There's my Florida lights. Florida beats McNeese State. Again, this is a bad FCS team, so they should dominate. They won 49-7 with McNeese only scoring off of a late turnover near their end zone that they were able to capitalize in. But the run game looked very good. Defense was nearly perfect, like I said, outside of that late touchdown. And they even got a safety. So technically they almost outscored McNeese 2-0, but the late TD. Ricky Purcell put up a big game. He had, I believe, nearly 100 yards or maybe over. And he had a long TD there set up by Graham Mertz on the long throw. Mertz was efficient, effective. The run game, like I said, was great. So it sets up well for next week against Tennessee, and we'll talk about that coming up on Wednesday. But, having a tough game like Utah was really it sucks, because it's like normally most of the rest of the teams in the country had a layup game the first week. So it's easy to, get out some of the kinks and, prepare a little better, see what things are happening. And, it just wasn't in the cards. They had to play a tougher game. But you know what? It's a loss. It's not the end of the world, because even if they, they're probably not going to be a playoff team, but, they have an outside chance of getting in the SEC championship game. So they just need to keep winning those games, which they haven't even started playing SEC games yet, which they have the potential to get in that game if they keep up a good win streak here. Obviously 1-1, it's not the end of the world here. They struggled, at Utah, but they looked a lot better against McNeese State. Take it with a grain of salt because of the fact that they're playing, a terrible team. That it is what it is. But look forward, like I said, to Tennessee next week, and we'll see how they do. Ian's thoughts. The offensive line and run game really rebounded. The passing game wasn't overly great, but the dump out options were very effective. All around, great game and stuff to build on for next week. Yeah, exactly. So let's move on. Okay, so last couple of games here. I got Washington State, Wisconsin. I didn't watch the results of that, but I know Washington State won that. So tough start for Luke Fickell there. So we'll see how he does the rest of the year. I don't envision Wisconsin having a great year considering this result. The game I went to, San Diego State and UCLA. UCLA looked phenomenal. Dante Moore is a huge star, just showing glimpses now, but he's going to be – he's an 18-year-old freshman who just looked amazing in this game, had at least 2 touchdowns and one, amazing long touchdown that was just perfect throw. The guy was wide open, but still, the kid is just a stud, and he's going to be great for years to come. He's got at least after this year 2 more years. I'm excited for UCLA's future. There's a lot to look forward to. The run game looked great. Steele, their running back, phenomenal. Just a stud of a running back. The defense looked great. Stuffed them on a lot of opportunities, forced punts, and, just a great game all around for UCLA. I'm surprised they're not getting enough pub because, again, they're a West Coast team, so they don't get as much credit for what they do well. And they're a very good team. And now that Moore has solidified himself as the starter, look out for this team going forward. They have a ton of tough games. The rest of their schedule is just a murderer's row of the Pac-12 teams. But, if they can survive, and just take a loss or two, they can get to 10-2. And I really believe this team is capable of that. Okay, moving on. USC Stanford. I almost went to this game as well. I knew both games would be blowouts. I wanted to go to the UCLA San Diego State game because I wanted to go to the stadium, like I said, which was remarkable, a lot of fun, and great place to go see a game. And I took a lot of video, and I'm actually going to show that to someone I follow, Robert Stieg from USF, and I'll show him some of the highlights I had there. But I'm going to put that together first on Premiere before I show anything. But on to USC Stanford, just a blowout. USC, man, looking great. This game was not a single close element to this game except for 0-0. And they win 56-10. Just, dude, Zachariah Branch looks amazing. Another punt return for a touchdown. Caleb Williams, what can I say? Heisman winner last year, already looking like the front runner, and it's not even close. He's putting up huge numbers every game, close to 300 yards almost every game, and multiple TDs every game. He's just phenomenal. Number 1 pick. Just if he stays healthy, he's going to win. There's no doubt in my mind at this point right now. Defense looked better, especially against Stanford, but Stanford may be not that great of a team this year. They're trending down very badly, so I'm guessing they're going to have a really tough year. And it's a great victory for USC. Good start for the Pac-12 conference schedule, but we'll see. The schedule gets tougher as we go. Like I said, the first 5 games are really easy, and then once it hits Notre Dame in South Bend, it's a completely different story. So right now it's easy. They're going to rest up, enjoy these victories, but when it comes Notre Dame, it's on for the rest of the year. They don't have an easy game after that. So it's good for right now, but they need to really prepare for those coming weeks when it's going to get really tough. Okay, last couple of games. Cal, Auburn. Close game. Auburn wins 14-13. They're scoring a late TD. Cal, they both look kind of rough. Cal's not a very good team. Auburn's probably not a really good team either. Auburn coming off 2 years of like 5-7, 6-6 years or whatever they were before they fired Brian Harsin. But Hugh Freeze looking to see if he can turn things around. It's going to take a while. We'll see. But good victory coming to California on the road late. The game was like, I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock my time, which is almost like 10:30, 11 East Coast time. So almost nobody watched the game. But it was definitely a good victory for Auburn because, this can propel them for the rest of the year. And potentially because in like 2 or 3 weeks, they play Georgia. So it's setting them up to potentially get some momentum into that game. I don't like their chances after watching this game of them beating Georgia, but we will see. It's in Auburn at the Plains, so maybe they'll have something there for them, but who knows? And Hugh Freeze is a hell of an offensive mind. Maybe he'll think of something. But last game, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, close game. Oklahoma State takes it near the end there. Jaden Rashada looked all right. I mean, he had some good passes, nothing crazy, but I don't know how much I like this Oklahoma State team. They're definitely under the radar right now because of Texas and Oklahoma. But I can see them rebounding after last year's struggle. So we'll see. So Oklahoma State beats Arizona State. Arizona State, again, it's a team I don't think too high of. I think they're going to go like at best 5-7, maybe 6-6. Okay, so real quick, we're going to do the Heisman or the playoff teams. Ian has for his playoff teams, he has USC, Texas outside of the top 4. Then he has FSU 4, Ohio State 3, 2 Michigan, 1 Georgia. Ian, if you're listening to this, I don't know how you have Ohio State there. They looked bad this week. They looked bad last week. They're looking bad against inadequate opponents. So we will see. The rest of those teams I do agree with. I would add what I have in my list is Notre Dame in that list. But I have USC, Notre Dame, Texas, Michigan as the top 4, and then Georgia, FSU outside of that. Okay, Heisman teams or Heisman players. I think I'm going to go with I got Caleb 1, Sam Hartman 2. Jordan Travis had a tough game, so I'm not going to put him there. I think he's gone out of the list right now. And then other players, I think those 2 are really the best I've seen so far. I like Michael Penix Jr., of course. I've been a huge fan of his. As far as other, Tyler Van Dyke looks pretty good. Shedeur Sanders, I would say, for these last 2 weeks, Shedeur Sanders and Tyler Van Dyke are up there right now as far as potential. Bo Nix looked really good as well. Bo Nix had 359 total yards and 2 TDs. That's a really good day. Joe Milton struggled, so he's completely off that list. Jordan Travis, yeah. He had 175 yards passing against Southern Miss. Yikes. So he's gone for now. So we'll see if he comes back. He's going to have huge games against big teams. The last thing I want to say, Penix's numbers. Michael Penix's numbers against Tulsa. They won pretty big. And Penix Jr., 409 passing yards, 3 TDs. There you go. Right there. Michael Penix Jr., I'm going to have him number 3, Sam Hartman number 2, and then Caleb Williams number 3. So that's the 3 right now that I have as big teams going forward. So with that being in mind, that is the show. Catch us next week on Wednesday, or this week technically on Wednesday, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. All the formats, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Also, catch us online at haterradio.com, at hater_radio for Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, and also haterradio1@gmail.com for email if you want to email us. Also for YouTube, it is just Hater Radio, just one word, at Hater Radio. If you type that in, it should come right up. For Facebook, it's Hater Radio CFB. So that is everything. That's the show. I'm Chris McLean. Hopefully Ian will be back on Wednesday. We'll talk more about these games coming up. I'm looking forward to the Tennessee-Florida game. I wanted to go to this game, but I changed my mind. So either way, I'm looking forward to it. And there's a bunch of other big games coming up. So we'll see you. Take care.